It's the hottest stock in the market since GME. We're talking Marvel trading cards in this video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're going to talk Marvel trading cards. That's right. You remember the ones from the early 90s that were modeled after baseball cards that everybody owned. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about what's been going on in the market with these cards, because for those who don't know, these cards have been absolutely exploding in terms of value and sales, and people are going crazy over these cards. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of context from what I was able to sort of suss out with what's going on with the market, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, and then maybe at the end we'll get into the prognosis of like where do we think these cards are going to land. I mean, these numbers keep going up and up and up. I mean, are we going to the moon here, or is there going to be a massive crash eventually? Well, before I get into that, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Love interacting with you guys, help support the channel. I'm getting really close to 1,600 subscribers, so it'd be great if you guys could help me get there, and I'd really appreciate it if you did one of those things. All right, with that being said, let us get into this video here, and let me give you some background before we kind of get into the market and everything like that. So I wanted to pull up these cards for you just to give you a little refresher, or in case you don't actually know what I'm talking about, let me show you. All right, so here we have, from the early 90s, Marvel put out their first rendition of Marvel cards, which are effectively, they're like baseball cards, except they're superheroes. And here you have the first rendition of that. This is a trading card set created by IMPEL. They called it Marvel Universe 1990. Other people might refer to this as Series 1, so you might hear people say that. So this is the Series 1 Marvel cards. Here you see the box. This is the design right now. And currently speaking, everybody is hunting unopened boxes. And for those who don't know, if you know a little bit about trading cards, they typically come in a box, and then inside the box you have these individual packs that have, as it says here, 12 cards in it. And you have it's like that roll the dice thing where you might have more rare cards than others. This is similar to everything in terms of Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering or other baseball cards. This has always been the model, and similarly, Marvel did that same sort of thing with their Marvel cards in 1990. And what was cool about this is they had the Marvel cards you see here. They had superheroes on them, where they would show a cool comic photo showcasing the superhero, and then on the back they'd have some stats about them. They talk about their bio, their first appearance, did you know? So little information that was like helpful for you to learn about the character. They had supervillain ones, they had rookie cards, so they kind of did the same thing with what baseball cards would do, where they'd say, oh, here are the new superheroes that came out that year. They'd have famous battles where they talked about maybe famous moments in comic books. So here you have one, Silver Surfer and Thanos. They would highlight very special comic books, so here's one showing the Punisher, but they had ones for like Amazing Fantasy 15, etc. And then at the end of the pack, they would also do these sort of like little comic skits, I guess you called them. And in particular with this series, they did them with Spider-Man, where he would have this interaction with all of the characters. But they were really, really fun to, own and fun to have. I happen to, have a full set, which I actually still do to this day. So dinner's on me, guys. But here I have my full set of Marvel Series 1. I also have a full set of Marvel Series 2, plus a lot of extra cards behind here. Unfortunately, I only have one hologram from the set, but that's okay. And then lastly, I have a ton of Marvel Series 3 here. I got some Ultras, I got some holograms, you can see right there. And then I have a opened box of Marvel Series 3 that I have right here, and tons of extra cards. So, hey, I'm loving that this is exploding right now in the market, because I am going to definitely be selling and buying some Key and Grail comic books if this continues to go up. But what I think is actually a little sidebar before I continue on. I actually had an unopened box of Marvel Series 3 that I sold just 2 months ago. Like I put it out in the market, and at that time it was, selling for $70. That was the market going rate. Now when I look on eBay, Marvel Series 3 boxes are selling for $350, $370, $380, and so who knows what the ceiling is going to be with these things. But I let mine go too soon. But this is the funny thing about the collectible market. It's like you really never know like what's going to happen, like what news cycle is going to push up certain comic books, or in this case, comic trading cards. All right, let's go on now. And I just want to show you guys some of the numbers here in terms of these unopened Series 1 boxes that have been selling. You can see here, here's like the last 3 sales I was able to pull up. Here's one unopened box that sold last night for $3,725. Here's another one sold yesterday, $3,275. Here's another one, $3,150. So these are like the last 3 sales that I've been able to like kind of pinpoint down, like, you know, what the prices are. And then additionally, like, you know, if I go into eBay right now, you're looking at like listing prices that are like in the $5,000, $6,000 range for those unopened boxes. And that is so crazy to me. But we got to get into why are people hunting these boxes? Like, you know, what kind of cards or value can they pull out of it? Well, this is what people are chasing. And they're really chasing, you know, they're trying to find those gem mint trading cards that they can send to PSA and, you know, net massive profit. So let me show you guys really quick. In case you didn't know, CGC, as you know, you guys who are comic collectors definitely know, CGC is the comic grading company that does a lot of our comic books. But CGC, even though they grade other like things, like they'll grade video games and they'll grade, I think they grade Pokemon cards and things like that, they actually don't grade these Marvel trading cards. So there is only really one company that has been doing that, and that's a company called PSA. So let me show you really quickly just to pull it up. This is PSA grading service. They do a lot of different collectibles. They mostly focus on sports cards. And so what's really interesting with what's going on right now in the market is that there's actually just not that much inventory that has been graded for these comic book cards. And on top of that, you know, it costs you like around $50 to grade one of your comic book cards. And until this moment right now, these cards had no value. So here's what's really interesting, right? You have what's going on in the market, right? These comic book cards are exploding, right? But you don't have that much supply out there in terms of ones that are actually graded. Not to mention that it takes about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you know, who knows how long it takes to get these cards to PSA and get them back to you. And if you want to put them on the market, it's going to take time. Additionally, up until this moment, you know, it costs you like $50 to grade one of these cards. So sending your card over there just to get it graded was effectively a waste of money. The only people that did it were people who actually wanted to have their cards graded for themselves. Like it was truly just, you know, a collector thing. It wasn't really to flip or anything like that. So now you have this explosion where these cards are actually being valued way above, you know, the $50 mark that it would cost for you to get your hands on, to get one graded. So this is really interesting. And so now we see, you know, these numbers are reflecting of like a limited supply in terms of graded cards, even though this was a massive print run. Apparently this was a massive print run and there's a lot of inventory out there. I don't really know if that's true. I'm going to get into that later in the video. But as far as PSA Gem Mint 10s are concerned, you know, there's not that much inventory out there. So let me just show you a couple prices so that you guys can wrap your head around this and see what I'm talking about. All right, so here's a couple auction prices I just pulled up. This is PSA has a listing of cards that are sold. So here's like a Dr. Doom, for instance, that came from that series. A Gem Mint, the most recent price, $750. You can see on the census, there's only 15 in circulation. Here you have Stan Lee, 161, most recent price, $900, 44 in circulation that are of the Gem Mint quality. Here you have Cosmic Spider-Man, number 30, $1,252, only six graded of these cards. Here you have Black Panther 20, $1,299. There's 16 on the census. And then here you can see this one I pulled up recently. This is a Wolverine number 23. It went for $1,500. Here you can see what it looks like. PSA Gem Mint 10. And there's the Wolverine card there. Additionally, here's one of the higher ones I could find in total. This was a Spider-Man with a black suit, $1,725 right there. Look at that. Gem Mint PSA $1,725. This is absolutely crazy to me. So now you know, like, well, this is why people are hunting these boxes, you know, and willing to pay upwards of like $3,000, pushing $4,000, because if they can get their hands on a few of these cards and get them to PSA and get Gem Mint, well, if you're gonna return, like, let's say in that box you're gonna get 3 of those Spider-Man cards, if you could flip them all for $1,700, well, that pays for the box and then some, because you can sell the Black Panther ones, you can sell the Wolverine ones. So people are flocking to this, like, thinking that this is like some kind of gold rush or gold mine. Now, with that being said, how do we feel about this? Like, do we think that this is sustainable? I mean, it can't possibly be sustainable in the long run. That being said, I do think that these cards have been undervalued for a very, very long time. I think that a lot of people, like, even though this was a high supply as far as like printing, is concerned, I think that for the most part, everybody loved these cards. Like, I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I love these cards, but everyone I talk to, everyone who I've interacted with in the comic book, collecting community, everybody had these cards. Everybody like thinks fondly of these cards. Like, yeah, they're maybe a little gimmicky, but everyone has nostalgia for them. And that's what I think is really interesting with what's going on here. It's like, now that you have like the PR and the influencers talking about these cards as far as them being, something that everyone is chasing in the market. And that's going to have an effect because everyone has sort of like a nostalgic reaction to the cards. And that's something that's really interesting, because even with comic books, like, when we chase collectible comic books that we, desire, it's like we have certain comic books that we really like, right? Or we might have a memory of a certain comic book that, has like, we have an emotional connection to. But the cards themselves, I feel like everybody who collected comic books has an emotional connection to these cards in some kind of way. I mean, they're just that you see it with the other industries, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, baseball cards. Like, kids love this stuff, and now we're in a situation where I feel like that nostalgia is like collectively hitting the hive mind all together, all at once. And that's why everybody feels like they want to get their hands on some version of these cards to satisfy that desire that we all have to recapture them. So this is interesting to me because although there is, in theory, high supply, there is also, in theory, high demand. And that's one of the reasons why the prices are going up so much. Now, what is going to happen, 2 months from now or 3 months from now, when everyone starts to get their PSAs back, what is the market going to do then? All of a sudden, we're going to get an influx of supply on things like eBay, et cetera. Like, how are people going to feel about it? Is the awareness of the market going to, catch up and maybe even more people will be demanding it? Or is it going to just totally flatline because, everything is cooling off? Well, there is one thing I want to point out to you is like, I think a lot of people think that they're going to be able to like open these boxes, and because they're unopened, they're going to just like get gem mints like that. Like, they're just open the box and the whole box is going to be tens for days. But I think that they're going to be in for a bit of surprise, because for those who don't know, and I'm not a professional grader by any sense of the, by any sense, I'm not a professional grader, but I do know some things about grading cards when it comes to Magic the Gathering. And to do a comparison to comic books for you guys who are watching, like, comic books and comic cards, or cards in general, have similar grading in terms of like, obviously you want the corners to be sharp. You don't want any creases. You don't want any, color breaks and things like that. But one of the things that card grading is really a stickler on versus comics is that the actual print, the alignment of the print matters a lot. And that's something that, like, it doesn't matter how well you took care of the card. That's just like a matter of like, well, in terms of the production of this card itself, like, did it produce a good card? Did the machines cut this perfectly? Those things matter a lot when it comes to card grading versus, in comic books, there's a lot of forgiveness in terms of like, cuts and paper cuts and alignment for the paper. CGC tends to look the other way when it comes to those flaws. So this is really, really interesting. And even looking through my cards right now, like I was just trying to study. I was like, oh, like, I wonder what condition they are. Like, I literally am one of those people who had my cards, I put them in, sleeves in a binder, and they stayed there for, 30 years essentially. So I figured that, a lot of my cards would be in good condition. But when I really, really study them, I can see that the print alignment for a lot of them isn't perfect. And so let me show you guys what I'm talking about right here, just so you guys can get an idea. So here we have the Spider-Man card, right? This is graded a 10. And I want you to pay attention here. Look at the border, the white border, right? The white border surrounding the card before we get to the blue on the actual colors. Well, as you can see from this white border, for the most part, it is pretty evenly spaced, right? You see all the edges have the same distance. So meaning that the print of the color of the card was centered perfectly. Now I want to pull, so this is something that gave a 10, but let me pull up another card that I just randomly Googled on, on Google here. And as you can see, like, look at this card. Even though this looks like it's a clean condition, look at the borders of this card compared to what we just saw. As you can see here, this border is a lot bigger than this one right here. And similarly here, you can see the top. See how the top is really, really thin in terms of the white border? Like, it doesn't match the same size as this one. And it also especially doesn't match the left edge here. So this is something where it's like, you know, you could have basically taken care of your card, you know, and just really, you know, taking good care of it. But if you were to send this into PSA, they would not give this a 10 because these edges, this print alignment is off compared to this one here, which the print alignment is perfectly centered. So that's something to consider. It's like, you know, and I'm just telling you right now, like, I look through a lot of my cards and, you know, misprints as far as like alignment is like, they are all over the place with these cards. So I don't think getting these gem mint 10s is going to be as easy as people think it is for this market. And for that reason, I kind of think that, you know, I do think that there's going to be a correction, that the market is definitely going to come down a bit. But I have a feeling that, you know, these cards are going to have some value from here on out. I do think that there are going to be people who want to get their hands on it and, you know, have it as like, you know, imagine having, you know, the first appearance of the black suit of Spider-Man and then having the PSA black suit Spider-Man next to it. And you can have them side by side. I mean, people like their collectibles to, like, you know, be next to each other. That's why, you know, you have people who have a lot of pops next to their comic books. It's the same sort of thing with the comic book card. Not to mention that there are also people out there who just like collecting cards. There's a huge card market that is unrelated to comic books. And you're going to have a lot of those people hunting these cards as well. So even though, like, not every comic book collector is going to care about these cards, there are going to be those people who, you know, are, you know, not a part of this market that are going to want to jump on this trend. And that might do, you know, keep the price elevated a little bit. All right, let me just show you really quickly, just so you guys can scratch your head over this. I just want to show you guys some of the numbers really quick that I've come across, which I think is really interesting. Pulled up recent eBay sales. Like, look at this stuff. This is crazy. Like, here you have a PSA 10 for a Wolverine that sold for $1,300. Here's an Archangel, you know, just kind of like a random side character. It sold for $300, PSA 10. Here you have, you know, a Cosmic, this is a raw Spider-Man, you know, selling for $200. Just scrolling through here, just to show you more numbers. I mean, I think it's really interesting. Overall, here you have some Magnetos. They sold for $12. Here you have a Silver Surfer hologram, you know, and that sold for, look at this, $3,150. That was yesterday at 6:29 p.m. This Silver Surfer hologram. I mean, that is unbelievable. You know, I didn't even, I don't know. I got a firewall blocking me, but this is so crazy to me. You know, even the holograms, right? We didn't even get into the holograms, and that's how, like, rare these cards are. So this is something that's, you know, super interesting to me as far as, like, you know, what's happening with the market. I don't know. I kind of feel like, hey, should I send in some of my cards to be graded? It's going to take a while and it's going to cost me $50 a pop. So I don't know if it's worth it. I also never wanted to let go of my cards. I mean, I love these things. Like, I'm going to have a hard time. I'm going to have a hard time letting them go. But at the same time, you know, if I can flip some of these cards for $1,000, like, that can buy me so many grails that I actually really want. Let me know what you guys think. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of context to what's going on with the Marvel comic cards. I feel like I'm going to make a couple more videos, you know, throughout the weeks and follow this story because it's super interesting to me. And I feel like it's going to, you know, last for at least a few more weeks, if not a few more months. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys still have your comic book cards? What do you think about this? Are you fans of this thing? Should I send my stuff in to get graded? What are you guys going to do? Are you guys hunting this stuff? Let me know in the comments. Drop me a like, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying my content, and I will see you in the next video.